Hey, so I recently received a message from a very gracious person that said, in part, as a blind individual, I was quite pleasantly surprised to not only find a fandom adaptation of Xaden's perspective of Fourth Wing, but an audio narration as well. You have a very pleasant voice to listen to, and I would quite thoroughly enjoy/appreciate it if you could find it in your heart to continue reading the story aloud. That was reminiscent of another message I received a few months ago, which was the reason I created this YouTube channel in the first place. Someone had asked if I'd be willing to try making audio versions of each chapter since they have focus-related problems and find it very helpful to read the text while listening to matching audio. They also mentioned that they are a member of many social media groups and subreddits about reading, books, and e-readers, and almost every day I see people raving about listening to an audiobook version of something while reading for better focus and understanding. So this channel was never actually meant to go anywhere. It was just for the presumably tiny slice of that community that was into Fourth Wing fanfiction. And the initial response to those first few audio chapters I made was much smaller than the following that the text version seems to have garnered on Archive of Our Own, or AO3, which is still shocking to me, frankly. So, my plan for a while now had been to finish writing it first, and I could always go back and create the audio version later for people that might prefer that. But the more I think about it, for a lot of people, it's not just a matter of preference, it's a matter of equity. Sure, a blind person can use some kind of text-to-speech technology, or a person with an attention deficit disorder can just make do with the text version, but their experience would be lacking compared to that of a privileged person like me, who has no trouble focusing and reading the text myself with the intended intonation and, frankly, enthusiasm. So I've decided that my previous plan wasn't good enough, especially considering that Rebecca Yarros herself is clearly very committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I have my own history with other types of DEI that makes me very receptive to this kind of request. I'm going to spend some time getting the audio version of my story here on YouTube caught up to the text version on AO3, where I'm about to post chapter 22 of 39. This will obviously cause a delay in the updates to the text version for a while, and I imagine that some of the AO3 readers won't be thrilled to hear this, but I hope you'll stick around to hear why I think this will ultimately make things better in the long run, which I personally believe is always the result when you make the spaces that you occupy more inclusive. Once I get the audio version caught up, I'll be releasing both the text and audio versions together. First of all, this will make it so that the audio version is available to anyone that wants it right off the bat, rather than only having the text version available when it's first posted. It's not just for those who have trouble focusing. If you've never tried reading and listening along at the same time, I highly recommend it. And secondly, I hope that it would help to bring the followings on YouTube and AO3 together to create a bigger, more inclusive community. I also feel obligated to be completely transparent about the fact that I have another reason for doing this that is much more selfish. The video that I put out speculating about Violet's second signet and some other predictions for things that might happen in Onyx Storm or subsequent books in the Empyrean series ended up getting a lot more attention than I'd anticipated. That message that I received from the blind individual came during the resulting surge this channel experienced. If I extrapolate the number of views that those first few audio chapters have now racked up, suddenly it seems like a completed audio version would be rivaling the number of hits on the text version. The amazing response that I've gotten to my fanfiction so far has inspired me to really go for a lifelong dream I've had of writing my own original work and trying to become a legitimate published author. If I can eventually manage to leverage this channel into one that qualifies for the YouTube Partner Program, I'll address the copyright concerns with that in a minute, I'd hope that that would, 1, make it easier to convince a publisher to take a chance on me, and 2, justify to myself and my family that it might be worth the risk to quit my day job that I have no passion for and actually take a chance on my dream. The only path that I see to that being even remotely possible is if I can show that I've written something that people really like, and potentially even started building something of an audience that might have interest in more of my writing. To that end, I would appreciate it so very much. It might even constitute a little contribution toward changing my life into the utopian multiverse version of my life if you would subscribe to this YouTube channel and leave a comment here or on something I've written that would help to convince a publisher that might read it one day to take a chance on me. Thank you. That's all the important things, so feel free to switch off now unless you want to hear my thoughts about copyright and a final ask that I'm going to make of people that are invested enough to continue listening to my self-serving rant here. Okay, so the recent surge that this channel has experienced is honestly also a little bit worrisome because on the off chance that the subscriber count here were to eventually increase another tenfold, I could theoretically start earning money from the ads that YouTube runs on my videos, and I'm dubious about the legality of that considering that I'm using Rebecca Yarros' intellectual intellectual property. I can't imagine things would ever actually take off to that extent, but just to have all my bases covered, I wanted to state here again, as I have from the very beginning, that all rights belong to Rebecca Yaros. If anyone from her team were to ever see this, please know that I would happily comply with any copyright claim they might want to make and hand over any earnings if that has come to pass. Hopefully you can tell that that is not why I'm writing this fanfiction. Which brings me to one final point. The mechanics of writing it are going to have to change, and I could use some help. Whenever I've posted new chapters to AO3 before, I always got helpful feedback from readers that results in me going back to retroactively make small edits, but my new plan will require having the chapters completely finalized when they're posted, since it'd be infeasible to go back and change the audio afterward. So another change I'll have to make is to get some of that feedback ahead of time from a small group of trusted readers so that I hopefully won't have to go back and make any changes after I post it publicly. I've already reached out to a few people that I knew I'd want this feedback from, but feel free to reach out to me in comments here or on AO3 if you're also interested in helping out with this effort and getting an advance copy of each chapter before it's finalized. Apologies in advance. If there are more than a few requests, I'll probably have to say no to most, as I want to keep this effort pretty tight-knit. Anyway, thanks for watching.